Frank Whiteley, comic book superstar. Is that real called Frank? Do you want to tell them why you called Frank? Do they all know that?
Yeah,
one?
we've already been through this, but it's a spoonerism of quite frankly, because I used to work in a kind of electric suit. It was a small press thing, and it was kind of scatological slapstick style stuff, and I hid behind the name Frank Whiteley.
So anyway, we thought we'd set off talking about some sort of your early influences, because you're not actually much of a comic book reader, are you? Which is quite rare in comics, isn't it?
Yeah, I'm one of these rarities in comics that I didn't grow up reading 2000 AD, and I didn't see any of the Star Wars films until first one I saw. I was about, I think I was in my early 30s when I saw the first one. So, slightly different set of influences than a lot of other people in comics, but as we'll see, there's a lot of kind of similar ones too.
Yeah, one of them being Dudley Watkins.
Yep.
Which we've got.
It's a Scottish artist that drew the Bruins and Our Willie, which were two full-page newspaper strips in a Sunday newspaper. And he was probably, certainly my earliest influence and probably my biggest influence in comic books. I was influenced by a lot of other illustrated books that I had in the house, but I think this guy was probably the biggest influence on me. I don't know how much I actually picked up storytelling-wise from any of the artists that influenced me, right up until I'd actually been working in comics for a few years, because I know there are now courses for comic book art, but when I started out, it was just, I mean, we just kind of learn as we go along, and
made it up as you went along. Didn't
yeah, and my idea of storytelling originally was just, you know, you try and make things as clear as possible. I had no real set of rules or guidelines or anything that I adhered to.
I think you see, because this is an example of the greens, isn't it? This is sort of your take on the Bruins, isn't it? This is what you did for Electric Suit.
Yeah.
And I think you can tell there's that sense with Dudley Watkins. It's sort of a fixed camera, and everything takes place.
Yeah, it's almost like sitcom.
Yeah.
And all the storytelling's like it's all body language and facial expression, and you know, there's not really. I'm not ever really thinking of camera angles or the way the eye's drawn around the page. You know, I mean, I obviously had a basic understanding of the fact that time does tend to move from left to right in any given frame. Just even to something as simple as who speaks first, you know, being near the left or near the top of the panel, but
that's sort of a practical thing, though, isn't it? More than
but I mean, this is a rare kind of action sequence in a green script, and you can see it really is pretty simple. The lack of backgrounds probably doesn't really help, but
again, that reminds me a bit of that Dudley Watkins. It's quite simple. It is focused on the people, the body language. You can see the whole person in the frame.
Yeah, I mean
sort of similar in that sense.
Sproing panel up there. I don't know if you can see the guy.
No, it's got no cursor.
Top right panel. There's a guy looking left and right at the same time. You know, so he's got a face on either side of his head. You know. There weren't really a lot of tricks. We've got big sound effects or sound effects that are actually kind of sometimes doing something.
Yeah, that's a bit better, isn't it?
Yeah. You know, like at the top left, you've got the car screeching, and the BAM sound effect is kind of in front of the windscreen where he's knocking the dead grandpa. up towards the overhead wires. You know, it's not quite like the same sound effects I'm doing in Batman and Robin just now, but it was, I suppose, it was an early prototype.
But they're integrated, aren't they? They're not like slapped on top, so it's sort of part
Yeah,
of the...
oh yeah, it's absolutely part of
the art, as it were, rather than it being...
And a thing that I used to do, for shame, I used to actually, sometimes if I was pushed for time, or if I just couldn't be bothered drawing the whole figure, I would fill the panel with dialogue and just have the head sticking out as if they were over the top of a fence. You know, I mean, things like that are just moronic. But then, I suppose it was that way. It was a really small press thing, and I think all of us that were working on it had this idea that nobody actually cared. Hardly anybody was buying it, hardly anybody was looking at it, and, you know, there was that freedom to really just do whatever we wanted.
Well, because you were your only audience, right?
Yeah, well, yeah, that and the fact that, you know, we were just doing it for a laugh. There was no money in it. We didn't have any writers, so all the artists on it had to make up their own stories. They had to do their own lettering. You had to put on your own lettering, you know, the zip tone stuff.
I like these balloons. I really like that lettering. You know, it's hardly your digital ellipses that you get these days. Much nicer.
Yeah, I've already collated it all, so I am planning on bringing out a Greens book. Alan Grant's company, Bad Press, they're interested in publishing it, and I'm open to other offers, but I think I'd probably go with Alan just because I know him and I trust him, and he's a good guy. But even if Bad Press bring it out, ideally I would actually like it to be as cheap as possible, simply because it's got little charming moments and there's nice wee bits of drawing here and there, but I mean it really is, it's the first comic strip work that I did that was published. I made my own comics, you know, as a child and as a teenager and stuff, but this was my first published work, and it's really ropey, it's really inconsistent, most of it's not even remotely funny. It's got its moments here and there, but so whatever way it comes out, chances are I'll probably do a kind of like a Lulu style version of it as well, where you can get it for £1.50 or £2, just because, you know, I don't, you know, it's not going to come out as some big handsome volume with a cloth cover or anything like that. You know, I'd like it to be kind of
cheerful on purpose.
Yeah, so that nobody feels really stung if they buy it and think, that's like shit, you know, which is a distinct possibility.